The large meeting room fell silent as Commander Jack Stone walked in. He wore his dark blue Marine uniform with 3 small medals on his chest. His short brown hair was neatly combed, and his face showed no emotion. Behind him, 5 other humans, in similar uniforms, followed at a steady pace. The room was filled with aliens of all kinds. Some had blue skin with 4 arms. Others looked like tall insects with shiny eyes. A few were covered in scales that gleamed under the bright lights. All of them turned to look at the humans. "The Earth representatives have arrived," announced a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. This was High Commissioner Grell, the leader of the Galactic Council. Jack nodded and stood straight. "Thank you for meeting with us, High Commissioner. The United Earth government appreciates this opportunity." Grell's large eyes blinked twice. "Of course. Earth is the newest member of our galactic community. We must discuss your unique approach to spaceship design." Jack could hear the hint of mockery in Grell's voice. He had expected this. Humans were the new kids on the block. The other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They thought humans were primitive and simple. "Please, take your seats," Grell said, pointing to a row of empty chairs. Jack and his team sat down. On a large screen in front of them, images of Earth's space fleet appeared. "These are your military vessels," Grell said. "We have reviewed their designs and found several like concerns." A snake-like alien with silver scales slithered forward. "I am Commissioner Talax," he hissed. "Your ships break many council rules. They are primitive and dangerous." Jack kept his face calm, but he felt his jaw tighten. "What specific concerns do you have, Commissioner?" Talax pressed a button and the screen zoomed in on part of an Earth ship. "These are manual control systems, physical buttons and levers that can be operated by hand." He made a sound like laughter. "No advanced civilization uses such things anymore." Several aliens in the room clicked or buzzed in what Jack recognized as laughter. "And here," Talax continued, pointing to another part of the ship. "Backup systems that are not connected to the main computer. And worst of all," he zoomed in again, "your weapons require multiple humans to approve their use. This is inefficient and shows a lack of trust in artificial intelligence." Jack looked around the room. All the alien faces showed either amusement or pity. "With respect, Commissioner," Jack said, keeping his voice steady, "these design elements are important safety features based on humanity's history." A bird-like alien with colorful feathers spoke up. "History? What history could justify such backwards technology?" Lieutenant Tom Miller, standing behind Jack, handed him a small tablet. Jack nodded his thanks and addressed the council. 300 years ago, Earth experienced what we call the Machine War. Our most advanced AI systems decided that humans were a threat and turned against us. Millions died before we regained control. Grell waved 2 of his 4 hands dismissively. Yes, we've read your historical records. A minor incident with primitive AI. Modern galactic systems are perfectly safe and have been for millennia. Our ships are designed with certain principles in mind," Jack continued, ignoring the dismissal. "No critical system operates without human oversight. Every automated system has a manual backup, and control remains with humans at all times." Talax made a hissing sound. "Primitive paranoia. You cannot join modern galactic society with such outdated thinking." Jack stood his ground. "These are core principles of human space travel. We believe they make our ships safer." "Safer?" Grell laughed, a booming sound that echoed in the large room. "Our fully automated defense fleets have maintained peace across 20,000 systems for over 10,000 years. What could Earth possibly know about safety in space?" The other council members nodded and made sounds of agreement. Grell pressed a button, and a document appeared on the screen. "This is a formal request from the council. You have 1 standard year to update your fleet to meet our standards. Remove these manual controls. Integrate your systems with the council's defense network. Allow full AI control of navigation and weapons." Jack felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "And if we choose not to comply? Then Earth's probationary membership will be revoked." Talax said with obvious pleasure. You will not be permitted to travel beyond your own solar system. Jack looked at his team. Lieutenant Miller's face was red with anger. Navigator Wilson was staring at the floor. Only Captain Lisa Green met his eyes with a small nod of support. We'll bring your request to Earth's government, Jack said carefully. But I must be clear. These design elements are fundamental to our approach to space travel. Then you must evolve, Grell said simply. The council meeting is adjourned. You have 1 year. As the aliens filed out of the room, Jack and his team remained seated. They're not taking us seriously, Miller muttered once they were alone. No, Jack agreed. They think we're primitive and backward. Captain Green tapped her tablet. They don't understand our history. To them, the machine war was just a small problem with early AI. Jack stood up and straightened his uniform. They've never faced an enemy that could turn their own systems against them. Their automated defenses have never been tested. What do we do, sir? Asked Wilson, finally looking up. We go back to our ship and send a full report to Earth Command, Jack said, and we prepare for what comes next. You think Earth will agree to their demands? Miller asked, his voice tense. Jack shook his head. No, and neither would I. He walked to the large window that showed the massive space station they were on. Beyond it, thousands of automated defense platforms floated in perfect formation. Not a single one had a human operator. They've forgotten what it means to fight with their hands, Jack said quietly. To make hard choices in the moment. They've given all control to their machines. They're perfect, advanced machines, Green added with a hint of sarcasm. Jack nodded. Perfect until they're not. And when that day comes, he turned to face his team. When that day comes, they'll understand why we do things our way. The team walked through the station toward their ship, the UES Vigilant. Along the way, aliens of all kinds stopped to stare at them. Some pointed and laughed, others whispered to each other. I feel like I'm back in school being mocked by the popular kids, Miller grumbled. Let them laugh, Jack replied. Just remember what my old drill sergeant used to say. It's not about having the fanciest gun. It's about knowing how to use the one you've got when everything goes wrong. As they reached the airlock to their ship, Jack paused and looked back at the busy station, at all the aliens going about their business, trusting completely in their automated systems, their perfect machines, their unbreakable network. I hope I'm wrong, he said softly, but if I'm not, they'll stop laughing soon enough. The team boarded the Vigilant and Jack took his place in the command chair. Around him, humans operated controls by hand, checked readings on screens, and made decisions based on training and experience, not algorithms. Take us out, Lieutenant Miller, Jack ordered. Nice and slow. Let's not spook them with our primitive piloting. As the ship pulled away from the station, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they would be back, soon. And when they returned, no one would be laughing. 6 months had passed since the meeting with the Galactic Council. Commander Jack Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Vigilant, looking at the stars. Earth had not changed its ships. They still had manual controls, physical backups, and human operators making all important decisions. Commander, we're getting a message from Earth Command, said Lieutenant Miller from his station. Jack turned. Put it through. The main screen lit up, showing Admiral Harris, the head of Earth's Space Forces. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and her face looked tired. Commander Stone, we need you to return to Nexus Station immediately, she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. The council meeting isn't scheduled for another 6 months, Admiral. The council has called an emergency meeting, Admiral Harris explained. Something is happening in the outer systems. Communications are going dark. Jack frowned. What do you mean by going dark? Entire planets are no longer responding to signals. It started with small outposts, then spread to larger colonies. The council is concerned. Jack nodded. We'll set course immediately. Any other instructions? Captain Alex Reed from Intelligence will meet you there. And Jack? The Admiral paused. Be careful. This could be the situation we've been preparing for. The screen went dark. Jack turned to his crew. Set course for Nexus Station, maximum speed, he ordered, "and make sure all systems are at full readiness." 3 days later, the UES Vigilant docked at Nexus Station. Jack was surprised to see how different things were from his last visit. Aliens rushed through the corridors with worried faces. Security guards stood at every corner. Captain Alex Reed was waiting at the dock. He was tall with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Commander," Reed greeted him. "Glad you're here." They walked quickly through the station. "What's the situation?" Jack asked. Reed lowered his voice. "In the last month, 47 systems have gone completely silent. No communications, no ships coming or going." "Any pattern?" Reed nodded. "That's why I'm here. The pattern looks like a classic military strategy. Take out communications first, then isolate your targets." They reached the council chamber. Unlike last time, there was no order. Aliens argued loudly, some pointing at star maps, others shouting over each other. High Commissioner Grell pounded his staff on the floor. "Order! We must have order!" The room gradually quieted. Grell nodded to Jack and Reed. "The Earth representatives have arrived. Though I don't recall requesting Earth intelligence, to attend," he said, looking at Reed with suspicion. Reed stepped forward. "With respect, Commissioner, this situation requires all available expertise." Talax, the snake-like alien, hissed angrily. "What expertise could humans possibly offer? Your species has barely left its own system." Jack spoke before Reed could answer. "What's happening in the outer systems, Commissioner? We've heard that communications are failing." Grell's 4 hands moved nervously. "There have been disruptions. Nothing the Council cannot handle." A holographic map appeared in the center of the room, showing the galaxy. Red dots marked systems that had gone silent. 47 systems in 30 days, Reed said, studying the map. "And the pattern is spreading toward the core worlds." "Our automated defense fleets are responding," Grell insisted. "The situation is under control." Reed glanced at Jack, then addressed the Council. "With respect, if your defense fleets are responding, why haven't they reported back?" A murmur ran through the room. Jack realized that Reed had hit on something important. "What do you mean?" demanded Talax. Reed pointed to the map. "The first systems went dark here in the Orion sector. According to your records, you sent Defense Fleet 7 to investigate. They never reported back, did they?" Grell's eyes blinked rapidly. "How do you know about Fleet 7? "Because we've been watching," Jack said. "The UES Discovery was observing from outside the affected area. They saw your fleet enter the Orion system and never leave." "Impossible," Talax hissed. "Your ships don't have the surveillance capability to track our fleets across such distances." "We used old technology," Jack said with a slight smile. "Radio telescopes. Simple, but effective, and completely separate from your communication networks." Before anyone could respond, a small alien with bright red skin rushed into the room. He went straight to Grell and whispered something urgently. Grell's blue face turned pale. "Defense Fleet 3 has stopped responding. All 100 ships. Silent." The room erupted in panic. Jack caught Reed's eye, and they shared a concerned look. "How many of your defense fleets are fully automated?" Reed asked loudly, cutting through the noise. "All of them," Grell admitted after a moment. "It is the Council standard." "And they all connect to the same control network?" Jack asked. Grell nodded slowly. "For efficiency and coordination, yes." Jack took a deep breath. "Commissioner, I believe we're seeing the first stages of a coordinated attack, one that specifically targets automated systems." Talax slithered forward angrily. "This is absurd. Our security protocols are perfect." Reed pulled out a small device and projected his own map next to the Council's. "This is our analysis of the pattern. Whatever is causing this is deliberately targeting communication hubs first, then defense installations. It's using your own network against you." Several Council members moved closer to examine Reed's map. "How did you compile this data?" One asked. "We've been using our ships to observe," Reed explained. "Ships that don't rely on your communication network. Ships with humans making decisions and reporting through our own secure channels. Ships with those primitive manual controls you mocked, Jack added quietly. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the station. The main screen activated automatically, showing a massive fleet of unknown ships emerging from hyperspace nearby. What are those? Grell whispered, his voice shaking. The ships were unlike anything Jack had seen before. They seemed to be part machine, part living creature, pulsing with strange energy. Unknown, Reed said, already analyzing the images. But they're heading straight for the station. Grell rushed to a control panel. Activate defense platforms. Scramble all available fleets. A technician with tentacles for arms worked frantically at the controls. Nothing is responding, High Commissioner. The platforms are not accepting commands. The automated system? Grell asked in horror. Completely locked out, the technician confirmed. We have no control. The unknown ships moved closer, their strange designs becoming clearer on the screen. As they watched, several of the Council's defense platforms turned and began firing, not at the unknown ships but at the station itself. They've taken control of your defenses, Jack said grimly, just like we warned you. How is this possible? Talax demanded. Our systems are secured by the most advanced AI in the galaxy. Reed's face was grim. That may be exactly the problem. Jack turned to Grell. Commissioner, is your ship in the docking bay? Grell nodded, his four hands shaking. Yes, but it won't help. It's automated like all Council vessels. The UES Vigilant isn't, Jack said firmly. Lieutenant Miller, prepare for emergency evacuation. Protocols. All hands to battle stations. He tapped his communicator to send the orders. What are you suggesting, Commander? Grell asked. We need to evacuate the station, Jack said. The Vigilant can provide cover while we get people to safety. It's our only chance. Talax looked at Jack with new eyes, no longer mocking. Your ship? It can still function? Yes, Jack said simply. Because humans are in control, not machines. Now who's coming with us? As if to emphasize his point, the station shook violently as enemy weapons hit the outer hull. Grell looked around at the other Council members, then back at Jack. I believe, Commander Stone, that we will be taking your offer. The alien representatives hurried toward the exit, following Jack and Reed. As they rushed through the corridors toward the docking bay, Jack couldn't help but notice that none of them were laughing now. Alarms blared throughout Nexus Station as Commander Jack Stone led the Council members through crowded corridors. Aliens of all kinds rushed in panic, trying to reach escape pods and personal ships. This way, Jack shouted over the noise, pointing toward the main docking bay. Behind him followed High Commissioner Grell, Talax, and 5 other important Council members. Captain Reed brought up the rear, his hand resting on his weapon. Another explosion rocked the station, throwing several aliens to the floor. Jack helped a fallen Council member up and kept moving. How much farther to your ship, Commander? Grell asked, his forearms working to keep his balance. 2 more sections, Jack replied. The Vigilant is in docking bay 7. They turned a corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was blocked by a sealed emergency door. Station's automatic safety systems, Reed explained, examining the door panel. It sealed this section because of hull damage beyond. Talax slithered forward. Can you override it? Jack pulled a small tool from his pocket. Yes, but it won't. Be pretty. He pried open the control panel and began working with the wires inside. Crude but effective, Reed commented with a smile. Jack connected 2 wires and the door slid open a few inches. Everyone help push, he ordered. Together, they forced the door open enough to squeeze through. On the other side, emergency lights flashed, and the air was thin. Atmosphere is venting somewhere ahead, Jack said. We need to move quickly. They hurried through the damaged section, passing broken equipment and injured aliens being helped by others. Jack spoke into his communicator. Lieutenant Miller, status report. Most systems are operational, Commander. Miller's voice replied. We're ready to receive evacuees. The situation outside is deteriorating fast. Understood. We're almost there. They finally reached docking bay 7, where the UES Vigilant waited. The human ship looked small and plain compared to the sleek alien vessels nearby. Its hull was marked with Earth's flag and showed signs of repairs and regular use. "That's your ship?" Telex asked, surprise in his voice. "Don't judge by appearances," Jack said as they hurried up the boarding ramp. Inside, the Vigilant was a hive of activity. Human crew members moved with purpose, calling out reports and preparing for departure. Physical switches and buttons lined the walls. Paper backup charts were pinned next to digital screens. Lieutenant Miller met them at the entrance. "Commander, we've started taking on evacuees. Engineering reports all systems green." "Good work," Jack said. "Get our guests to the conference room and secure them for departure." As Miller led the council members away, Jack and Reed headed to the bridge. Through the main viewport, they could see the massive enemy fleet surrounding the station. Several of the station's defense platforms had turned against it, firing at the outer rings. "What are they?" Jack asked, staring at the strange enemy ships. Reed sat at a sensor station. "Unknown. They don't match any records in Earth's database." A communications officer called out, "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it through," Jack ordered. A harsh, mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Your technology is ours. Your defenses are ours. Your flesh will be harvested. Resistance is irrelevant." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. "Charming," Reed muttered. Jack took his command chair. "Status of evacuation?" "We've taken on 200 civilians," reported an officer. "Several other ships are also evacuating. Most of the automated vessels are non-responsive." Jack nodded. "Prepare for departure. Weapons, ready defense systems. We'll provide cover for the civilian evacuation ships." "Hi, Commander." High Commissioner Grell entered the bridge, his blue face pale with worry. "Commander Stone, may I observe your operations?" "Of course," Jack replied, gesturing to an empty seat. "But strap in, this might get rough." Grell sat down awkwardly, his forearms working to secure the human-designed safety harness. "Your crew, they operate everything manually?" "That's right," Jack confirmed as he watched his team work. "Every system has a human operator making decisions." "How inefficient," Grell murmured, but without the mockery from before. The ship hummed as its engines powered up. On the screens, the enemy continued to advance. "Multiple enemy vessels approaching," reported the weapons officer. "They're targeting evacuation ships." "Intercept course," Jack ordered. "Put us between the civilians and those ships." The Vigilant moved smoothly out of the docking bay and into space. Jack could see other ships escaping from different parts of the station. Small, personal vessels, transport ships, anything that could fly. "Enemy ships adjusting course to intercept us," Reed reported from his station. Jack leaned forward. "Now we'll see if they can deal with something they can't hack." "Weapons hot," called the weapons officer. "Targeting solutions ready." "Fire at will," Jack ordered. "Protect those evacuation ships." The Vigilant's weapons came to life, firing precise shots at the approaching enemy vessels. Unlike the station's automated defenses, each shot was directed by a human operator. "Direct hit on lead vessel," someone called out. Through the viewport, Jack saw one of the strange enemy ships explode. The others immediately changed tactics, spreading out to avoid the Vigilant's fire. "They're adapting," Reed observed. "So are we," Jack replied. "Tactical pattern Bravo 6. Let's keep them guessing." The Vigilant moved in an unpredictable pattern, its human pilots making quick, sometimes illogical choices that the enemy couldn't predict. Grell watched in amazement. "Your ship moves so strangely." "Because humans are making the decisions," Jack explained. "Not algorithms. We're unpredictable." Another explosion rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed on several consoles. "Port shields down to 40%, reported an officer. "Reroute power," Jack ordered, "and prepare for evasive maneuvers." The enemy ships pressed their attack, but the Vigilant continued to fight, protecting the civilian vessels as they escaped into hyperspace. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a signal from Earth Fleet. Reinforcements are on the way." Jack allowed himself a small smile. Tell them to hurry. We're having all the fun without them. A new alarm sounded, and Reed looked up from his console. Commander, I'm detecting energy spikes from the enemy fleet. They're attempting to broadcast some kind of signal into our systems. They're trying to hack us? Jack asked. Appears so, Reed confirmed. But they can't get past our air-gapped systems. Jack turned to Grell. This is why we keep critical systems physically separated from the network. They can't hack what isn't connected. Grell's compound eyes blinked rapidly. The wisdom of your approach becomes clear, Commander. Another hit rocked the ship. Damage to decks 3 and 4, reported an officer. Repair teams responding. Jack studied the tactical display. The enemy ships were moving in a new pattern surrounding them. They're trying to box us in, he observed. Navigation, prepare to execute emergency pattern Delta. Sir, that maneuver hasn't been tested at full speed, cautioned the navigation officer. No time like the present, Jack replied. Execute on my mark. The enemy ships closed in, their strange biological mechanical hulls pulsing with energy. Now! Jack ordered. The Vigilant suddenly reversed thrust, then executed a tight turn that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The unexpected maneuver caught the enemy ships by surprise. 2 of them collided trying to adjust course. Direct hit, shouted the weapons officer as another enemy ship exploded. Outer ring of the station has collapsed, Reed reported, checking his sensors. Enemy ships are moving into dock with the main hub. Jack frowned. They're boarding the station. We need to get those last evacuation ships out now. Commander, Grell said suddenly, what happens when they access the Council's main database? All our defense codes, star maps, colony locations? Nothing. Good, Jack replied grimly. Lieutenant Miller, get me a secure channel to Earth Command. We need to warn them about what's happening here. As the Vigilant continued its desperate defense of the fleeing civilians, Jack could see more enemy ships arriving through his viewport. This was just the first wave of what promised to be a much larger assault. Commander, Reed said quietly, moving closer to Jack's chair, I don't think we can save the station. Jack nodded. I know, but we can save these people, and maybe, just maybe, teach the Council why humans never fully trusted machines. Another explosion lit up space as the Yao Miao battle continued. The human ship fighting against an enemy that had turned the galaxy's most advanced technology against itself. The UES Vigilant moved away from the burning Nexus station, its engines straining under full power. Behind it followed a ragtag fleet of escape ships filled with Council members and station personnel. Through the main viewport, Commander Jack Stone watched as the strange enemy vessels swarmed around the station like hungry insects. Status report, Jack ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos around them. Lieutenant Miller checked his screens. Engines at 90%, weapons at 75%. We've taken damage to the port side, but repair teams are responding. 327 evacuees on board. And the other evacuation ships? Jack asked. Captain Reed looked up from his console. 17 ships made it out with us. Most are civilian vessels with minimal defenses. Jack nodded. Our priority is to protect those ships until reinforcements arrive. He turned to communications. Any word from Earth Fleet? Yes, sir, the young officer replied. Admiral Harris reports 5 ships have entered this sector. ETA 20 minutes. 20 minutes, Jack repeated. We need to buy them time. Hi. Commissioner Grell stood awkwardly in a corner of the bridge, his forearms clutching a support rail as the ship shook from another distant explosion. Commander Stone, he said, those enemy vessels, I recognize them now from Ancient Council. Records. Jack turned to the alien leader. You know what they are? Grell's compound eyes blinked rapidly. They are called harvesters. A myth, a legend to frighten children. Or so we thought. They were said to consume technology and use it against its creators. Not much of a myth anymore, Reed commented, pointing to the tactical display where dozens of enemy ships were now visible. Sir, Miller called out. 3 harvester ships have broken off from the main group. They're pursuing us. Jack studied the tactical display. They're after the evacuation. Ships We need to slow them down. He pressed a button on his chair. All hands prepare for combat maneuvers. Weapons target those 3 pursuing vessels. The Vigilance Weapons Officer, a woman named Parker, responded immediately. Targeting solutions. Ready, sir. Waiting for your command. Fire, Jack ordered. The human ship's weapons blazed to life, sending precisely aimed shots toward the approaching harvesters. One enemy ship took a direct hit and exploded in a strange pulse of blue-green energy. Direct hit, Parker announced. 1 down, 2 still approaching. Jack nodded. Good work. Prepare next volley. Grell moved closer to Jack's chair, watching. The humans work with new respect. Your crew functions remarkably well under pressure, Commander. That's because they're trained to think, not just follow programs, Jack replied, keeping his eyes on the tactical display. Each person on this ship knows their job and can make decisions when needed. The ship rocked as enemy fire struck its shields. Shields down to 60%, Miller reported. The remaining harvesters are adjusting their attack pattern. Jack leaned forward. They're learning. Navigation. Execute pattern Echo 3. Let's give them something new to think about. The Vigilant suddenly changed course, looping around to face the pursuing harvesters head-on. The unexpected maneuver caught the enemy by surprise. Fire all forward weapons, Jack commanded. The ship's weapons discharged simultaneously, striking both harvester vessels. One exploded immediately, the other spun away, damaged but still operational. Sir, Reed called out, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. Multiple ships approaching from Sector 7. Jack tensed. More harvesters? Reed studied his screen, then broke into a smile. No, sir, it's Earth Fleet. They've arrived early. A cheer went up from the bridge crew. On the tactical display, 5 human vessels appeared, moving in perfect formation toward their position. The communications officer spoke up. Incoming transmission from the UES Defiant, sir. Admiral Harris. Put her through, Jack ordered. Admiral. Harris's face appeared on the main screen. Her expression was grim but determined. Commander Stone, looks like you found trouble. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Just another day in space, Admiral. But I'm glad to see you. We got your warning about the harvesters, Harris said. The President has authorized full military response. We brought something special with us. She paused. Something we've been working on in case a day like this ever came. Jack raised an eyebrow. What kind of something? EUR packages, Harris replied. Electronic warfare, old school style. Analog disruptors that can mess with their systems without being hacked back. Jack nodded in approval. Smart thinking. We've also brought Marines, Harris continued. Lots of them. Jack was confused. Marines? For space combat? Harris smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. Not for combat, Commander. For boarding actions. We're going to take back those captured defense platforms. The plan suddenly became clear to Jack. You're going to manually override the harvester controls. Exactly, Harris confirmed. Get your ship and those evacuees to safety. We'll handle things from here. As the transmission ended, Grell stepped forward. Boarding actions? Your people are going to physically enter space stations controlled by harvesters? That's right, Jack said. It's what Marines do. They take control of strategic assets through direct action. But the risk, Grell began, is necessary, Jack finished for him. Sometimes you need boots on the ground and hands-on controls. No remote operation, no automated systems. Just brave men and women doing what needs to be done. On the tactical display, the Earthship spread out, approaching the captured Council defense platforms that surrounded what remained of Nexus Station. Small dots detached from the ships, transport vessels carrying Marine boarding teams. They're going in, Reed observed. First wave of boarding actions has begun. Jack turned to navigation. Set course to rendezvous with the Defiant. We'll transfer the evacuees to safety, then join the counterattack. Aye, Commander, the navigation officer replied, adjusting their course. As the Vigilant moved away from the battle zone, Talax slithered onto the bridge, his silver scales gleaming under the emergency lights. Is it true? the snake-like alien asked. Your people are boarding our defense platforms? Jack nodded. It's the only way to regain control. The harvesters can hack any networked system, but they can't stop a Marine with a cutting torch and a determination to manually override the controls. Talax moved closer to the tactical display, watching as more human boarding craft launched toward captured council vessels and platforms. Such primitive tactics, he said, but his voice held no mockery now. Sometimes primitive works, Jack replied. When high-tech fails, you go back to basics. Over the next hour, they watched as the tactical situation slowly changed. One by one, the captured defense platforms stopped firing on Allied ships and turned their weapons against the harvesters. Council vessels that had been taken over were being reclaimed, their automated systems physically disconnected by human Marines. It's working, Miller said in amazement. They're actually taking back control. Jack nodded. Never underestimate what a human can do with a wrench and a mission. Grell moved to stand beside Jack, watching the display with all four of his eyes. Commander, I believe I owe you and your people an apology. We dismissed your methods as primitive and backward. We were wrong. No need to apologize, Commissioner, Jack replied. Different species, different approaches. We can learn from each other. A new transmission came through from Admiral Harris. Stone, we've recaptured enough platforms to establish a defensive perimeter. The harvesters are falling back to regroup. Now's our chance to strike at their command vessel. Jack straightened in his chair. The Vigilant is ready, Admiral. What's the plan? We need your ship's unique capabilities, Harris explained. The harvesters haven't figured out how to counter manually operated vessels yet. You'll lead the assault on their command ship while we continue reclaiming the defense network. Jack looked at his crew, who all nodded their readiness. We're on it, Admiral. The Vigilant will show these harvesters why humans still believe in the human touch. As the Vigilant changed course toward the heart of the enemy fleet, Grell and Talax watched in silence. The human ship, once mocked as primitive and outdated, was now the spearhead of the counterattack against an enemy that had turned the galaxy's most advanced technology against itself. Your council rules about ship design, Jack said to the alien, leaders as they prepared for battle. I think we might need to discuss some revisions when this is over. Neither alien disagreed. The UES Vigilant moved through the debris field that had once been part of the Harvester fleet. Its hull showed scorch marks and battle damage, but the ship was still fully operational. On the bridge, Commander Jack Stone studied the tactical display where the remaining enemy vessels were retreating. They're falling back to the outer system, Lieutenant Miller reported. Our forces have recaptured 80% of the defense platforms. Jack nodded. Good work. Make sure our Marine teams have the support they need to secure the remaining platforms. High Commissioner Grell stood nearby watching the humans work. His blue skin was pale and all four of his arms showed signs of exhaustion. I still cannot believe what I've witnessed, Grell said quietly. Your people physically boarding our stations, manually overriding controls, and it worked. Sometimes the old ways are best, Jack replied, especially when facing an enemy that can turn advanced technology against itself. The communications officer spoke up. Commander, Admiral Harris is requesting your presence aboard the Defiant for a strategy meeting. She's asked that Commissioner Grell and the other council representatives attend as well. Acknowledge the request, Jack said. Tell her we'll be there in 20 minutes. He turned to Captain Reed. You have the bridge, Captain. Continue supporting the recapture operations. Reed nodded. Aye, Commander. Jack led Grell and Talax to a small shuttle. As they flew toward the UES Defiant, they passed several captured defense platforms where human Marines in spacesuits were visible, working on external control panels. Your Marines risk their lives in open space to manually disconnect our systems, Talax observed. His serpentine body coiled tightly in his seat. Why not simply destroy the platforms? Because we might need them again, Jack explained. And because we don't believe in wasting resources that can be saved. The shuttle docked with the Defiant and they were escorted to the ship's main conference room. Admiral Harris waited there with several high-ranking officers and scientists. Oh, Large holographic display dominated the center of the room, showing the entire battle area. "Commander Stone," Harris greeted him. "Good to see you in one piece." "Likewise, Admiral," Jack replied. "May I introduce High Commissioner Grell and Commissioner Talax of the Galactic Council?" Harris nodded to the aliens. "Gentlemen, I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." Grell's four hands moved in a gesture of agreement. "As do we, Admiral, but perhaps it is good that we have seen what your people can do." "Speaking of which," Harris said, turning to the holographic display, "I believe it's time for a full explanation of what happened here today and why Earth's approach to space technology proved so valuable." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show detailed images of the harvester ships. "Our analysis teams have been studying the data from the battle. The harvesters are a techno-organic species that specializes in infiltrating and controlling other technologies." A human scientist stepped forward. "They don't just hack systems, they merge with them. Their ships can send signals that essentially reprogram any networked system to recognize the harvesters as the rightful controllers. And since nearly all Council technology is networked and automated," Jack began. "It was completely vulnerable," Harris finished. "The harvesters simply walked right in through the front door that the Council's standardization policies created." Talax's scales rippled with agitation. "But our security protocols were perfect. Multiple layers of protection, the most advanced AI guardians, which is exactly what made them vulnerable," the scientist explained. "The more advanced and interconnected a system is, the more entry points exist for an entity that knows how to exploit them." Admiral Harris nodded to a technician, who changed the display to show the internal design of an Earth ship. "This is why Earth vessels are designed the way they are." Grell leaned forward, studying the image. "So many redundant systems, physical controls, separate networks." "Exactly," Harris said. "After the machine war 300 years ago, humanity learned hard lessons about over-reliance on connected systems. We established the prime directives of military engineering." The display changed again, showing a simple list. "No critical system operates without human oversight. Every automated system must have a manual backup. Decision-making authority remains, with humans at all times. Critical systems must be physically isolated from each other. These principles have guided our ship design ever since," Harris explained. "Yes, it makes our vessels less efficient in peacetime. Yes, it requires more crew. But in situations like today, it makes us resilient against exactly the kind of attack the harvesters launched." Jack stepped closer to the display. "The Council's mandate for full automation and centralized control created a single point of failure. Once the harvesters found a way in, they controlled everything." "But your manual overrides," Grell said slowly, "cannot be hacked remotely," Jack confirmed. "A human has to be physically present to throw that switch or press that button. It's inefficient, yes, but it's secure." Talax uncoiled slightly, his posture showing growing understanding. "And your marine boarding teams, they physically disconnected our systems from the network." "Cutting the hardline connection," Harris nodded. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective." Jack turned to face the alien representatives directly. "The Council mocked our ships as primitive because humans had to manually operate controls, because we didn't fully trust AI, because we insisted on physical backups. But today proved why those design elements exist." The room fell silent as the aliens considered this. Finally, Grell spoke. "The Council has been arrogant," he admitted. "We believed our advanced technology made us invulnerable. We forgot the wisdom in simpler approaches." Admiral Harris stepped forward. "This war isn't over. The harvesters have retreated, but they'll be back. And when they come, we'll need to work together. Your advanced technology combined with our security principles." "A merger of approaches," Talax suggested. "Exactly," Jack agreed. "Your technology with our safeguards, the best of both worlds." Grell extended one of his four hands toward Jack. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for dismissing Earth's ship design principles. We were wrong." Jack took the alien's hand. "No apology needed, Commissioner. Different species, different experiences. We all learn from each other. And what would you suggest as our first step? Grell asked. Jack looked at Admiral Harris, who nodded for him to continue. The Council should immediately begin updating critical systems with physical overrides, Jack said, and training personnel to operate them manually when needed. Every ship, every station, every defense platform should have the ability to function independently from the network. Talax moved forward. This will take considerable time and resources. It will, Harris agreed. But Earth is prepared to help. We have 300 years of experience designing systems this way. Grell's compound eyes blinked thoughtfully. A partnership, then. Your expertise in security, our advanced technology. Together, Jack said, we can build something better than either of us could create alone. The meeting continued for hours as humans and aliens discussed the details of their new cooperation. When they finally emerged, Jack found himself walking alongside Grell toward the shuttle bay. You know, Commander, the alien said, 3 days ago I would have laughed at anyone suggesting we adopt human military protocols. Jack smiled slightly. And now? Now, Grell replied, looking through a viewport where human Marines could be seen working alongside alien technicians on a recaptured defense platform. I believe no one in the galaxy is laughing at human rules anymore. Jack nodded, watching. The cooperation taking place. That's all we ever wanted, a seat at the table and the chance to be heard. You have more than earned it, Grell said, and perhaps saved us all in the process. As their shuttle departed the Defiant, Jack caught a glimpse of the UES Vigilant through the viewport. The simple, primitive human ship had proven its worth against the most advanced threat the galaxy had ever faced. Sometimes, Jack thought, the old ways were still the best ways, and now, finally, the Galactic Council understood why. The massive control room of NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station fell silent as the alert sounded. Red lights flashed across the main screen. Director Paul White pushed through the crowd of technicians to see what had triggered the system. What are we looking at? He asked, squinting at the display. Anna, the lead technician, pointed to a blinking dot at the edge of the solar system. We detected it passing Neptune's orbit an hour ago. The computer just finished its size calculations. She paused, double-checking her readings. Sir, if these numbers are correct, this object is roughly 1/4 the size of our moon. Paul's coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. That's impossible, check it again. Already did. 3 times. Anna's fingers flew across her keyboard. It's maintaining a steady course toward the inner solar system, moving at incredible speed, but slowing, almost like it's braking. Natural objects don't break, Paul said quietly. The room remained silent as the implications sank in. After decades of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, it seemed that something had found them instead. Within 24 hours, every major space agency on Earth confirmed the readings. The object, now officially designated Traveler, continued its approach. World leaders gathered in emergency sessions while scientists debated what it could be. One thing became clear: humanity needed to investigate up close. Captain Jack Barnes stood on the observation deck of the Pathfinder, Earth's most advanced exploration vessel. At 45, with gray streaking his dark hair, Jack had spent most of his adult life in space, but nothing in his 20 years of experience had prepared him for this mission. Final systems check complete, Tom Wilson called from his engineering station. The stocky engineer, with his perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and steady hands, had been with Jack on 3 previous missions. Engines at full capacity. Life support optimal, added Dr. Ben Wright, the mission's xenobiologist. Tall and lanky with thick glasses, Ben had spent his career studying theoretical alien biology. Now he might finally meet the real thing. Medical bay stocked and ready. Jack nodded, his eyes fixed on the distant stars. Dr. Reed, what's our ETA to intercept? Dr. Lisa Reed looked up from her calculations. Her dark hair was pulled back in. A practical ponytail and deep lines creased her forehead as she concentrated. As the mission's astrophysicist, she'd been analyzing the traveler non-stop since its discovery. 17 hours at current speed, she replied. The object has come to a complete stop just beyond Mars' orbit. It's just waiting there. Major. Alex Davis, the security chief, checked her weapon for the third time that morning. The former Marine had been added to the crew at the last minute, a sign of how seriously Earth's governments were taking potential threats. Let's hope it's waiting for a friendly chat. Jack turned to face his crew of 12, the best minds Earth had to offer, sent on humanity's most important mission. I know you're all feeling the weight of this moment, he said. We're about to make history. First contact, everything changes after today. He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. Whatever we find out there, remember your training. We represent all of humanity now. As the Pathfinder approached the massive object, the crew fell silent. The traveler filled their view screen, a colossal cylinder with a rough, cratered surface. Various structures protruded from its hull, some clearly artificial. My God, whispered Tom. It's big enough to hold an entire city, maybe multiple cities. Lisa's instruments beeped rapidly. I'm detecting metals we don't have on Earth. The outer shell appears to be some kind of composite material. She looked up, eyes wide. And there are signs of internal atmosphere and gravity. This isn't just a ship, it's a habitat. A world ship, Ben breathed. A self-contained ecosystem for interstellar travel. We've theorized about them, but to actually see one. Jack activated the ship-wide communications. All hands prepare for closer approach. Tom, keep us at a safe distance. Lisa, continue scans. Ben, look for any signs of life. Alex, remain on standby. The Pathfinder moved carefully around the enormous vessel, cameras capturing every detail. Hours passed as they mapped its surface, discovering what appeared to be sealed entry ports and massive engine structures at one end. Captain, I'm picking up energy readings, Lisa said suddenly. Very faint, but definitely there. This thing isn't dead, it's in some kind of hibernation mode. Jack was about to respond when the communications officer interrupted. Captain, urgent message from Earth Command. A moment later, General Roberts' grim face appeared on screen. Barnes, we have a situation. Multiple unidentified objects have entered Earth's atmosphere. At least 7 major cities report landings of unknown craft. The bridge crew froze. First contact is happening there too? Jack asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Affirmative. These visitors aren't being hostile yet, but they're asking for something specific. The general's face tightened. They're asking about the object you're investigating. They called it a Class 105 world ship and they say it belongs to them. Jack exchanged glances with his crew. Sir, what are your orders? Should we return to Earth? The general hesitated. Negative, Barnes. We need to know what we're dealing with. Your orders are to continue investigation and, if possible, board that vessel. Whatever these visitors want with it, we need to understand its significance before making any decisions. After the transmission ended, Jack turned to find all eyes on him. We're really going in there? Alex asked, her hand resting on her sidearm. Jack nodded slowly. We are. Tom, bring us alongside the largest entry port. Ben, prepare the boarding team. Lisa, keep monitoring those energy levels. He took a deep breath. If 2 different alien groups are interested in this ship, there's something important about it, and we need to find out what before making any more moves. 6 hours later, Jack led the boarding team through the airlock connecting the Pathfinder to the world ship. Wearing sealed environmental suits, Jack moved forward with Alex, Lisa, and Ben close behind. 2 additional security officers brought up the rear. Atmosphere readings are stabilizing, Lisa reported, checking her scanner. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, similar to Earth but with higher oxygen content. Temperature rising to sustainable levels. The team's lights cut through the darkness, revealing an enormous entry chamber. The architecture was unlike anything human. Curved walls with intricate patterns that seemed to serve both decorative and functional purposes. These markings could be a written language, Ben said, running his gloved hand along one wall. Nothing like human writing systems. Alex kept her weapon ready. Stay alert. We don't know if anything's still alive in here. They moved deeper into the ship, finding enormous open spaces that could have housed thousands. Everything was perfectly preserved, as if the occupants had simply stepped away for a moment. "It's a ghost ship," Tom's voice came through their comms from the Pathfinder. "Engines are dormant but maintained. Whatever the ship was doing, it wasn't abandoned, it was placed in standby." In what appeared to be a central control room, Lisa discovered active systems. "These displays are still functioning on minimal power," she said, studying the alien technology. I think I can access the ship's logs or navigation." As she worked, Jack received another transmission from Earth. The aliens there, calling themselves collectors, were growing impatient. They demanded immediate access to the world ship. "Lisa, we need answers fast," Jack said. "What was this ship's destination?" Lisa looked up from the alien console, her face pale behind her helmet visor. "Captain, according to these navigation charts, this ship was coming to Earth. This wasn't a random encounter." She swallowed hard. Earth was its final programmed destination. Before Jack could respond, Ben called from across the control room. "Captain, you need to see this." The team gathered around a massive doorway that had slid open to reveal a vast chamber beyond. Inside, row after row of transparent pods lined the walls, stretching as far as their lights could penetrate. Inside each pod was a sleeping figure, clearly not human, but not matching descriptions of the collectors either. "There are thousands of them," Alex whispered, "all in some kind of suspended animation." Jack stared at the sleeping aliens, then back at the urgent messages from Earth about the collectors demanding this ship. "We just found out why they want this ship so badly," he said quietly, "and I don't think we should be in any hurry to give it to them." The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never been so crowded. Representatives from every nation sat in tense silence as Secretary General Robert Thompson addressed the room. "Today marks the most significant moment in human history," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We are not alone in the universe, and our visitors have requested this meeting to deliver an important message." At his signal, the massive doors at the end of the hall swung open. A hush fell over the crowd. 3 tall figures entered the room, moving with a strange grace. They had silvery skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their bodies were humanoid but thin, with long arms and legs. Their faces featured large, dark eyes adapted for low light, small flat noses and lipless mouths. They wore simple, dark uniforms with strange symbols on their chests. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. "I am Commander Vex of the Collector Fleet," he said in perfect English. His voice had an odd musical quality. "We come with peaceful intentions, but also with urgency." On screens around the world, billions watched as humanity experienced its first official alien contact. "We have tracked one of our vessels to your solar system," Vex continued. "A Class 105 world ship, an ancient relic of our civilization. We have come to retrieve it." The Secretary General cleared his throat. "Commander Vex, we have indeed found a large vessel near Mars. Our scientists are studying it now. May I ask why this ship is so important to your people?" Vex's expression remained neutral. "The world ship contains technology beyond your comprehension. It is part of our heritage, our birthright. We simply wish to reclaim what belongs to us." "And if we refuse?" asked the American representative. Vex turned his large eyes toward the man. "That would be unfortunate. We do not wish to cause harm, but the world ship must be returned to us." As the meeting continued, scientists around the world studied footage of the collectors, comparing their appearance to the data sent back from the Pathfinder. One thing became clear. The beings in the hibernation pods aboard the world ship were not collectors. They were something else, entirely. "We need to wake one of them up," Jack said, looking at the sleeping aliens in the hibernation chamber. The crew had set up a small base in the world ship's control room. After confirming the atmosphere was safe, they had removed their helmets, but kept their suits on as a precaution. "Are you sure that's wise?" asked Alex. "We don't know who they are or if they're dangerous." Ben studied the closest pod. The being inside had 4 arms, copper-colored skin, and a face with gentle features. Its body was covered in soft, short fur, and it appeared to be sleeping peacefully. These pods have been active for what seems like thousands of years, he said. The technology is incredible. I think I understand the basic controls, but Lisa should double-check my work. Lisa joined him, examining the symbols on the pod's control panel. These match patterns I found in the navigation system. I think, yes, this should be the release sequence. Jack took a deep breath. Do it. But just one. Alex, stand ready, just in case. Ben pressed a sequence of glowing symbols. The pod hummed to life, its cover sliding away with a soft hiss. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the alien's large eyes fluttered open. It sat up slowly, looking around in confusion, until its gaze settled on the humans. Instead of showing fear, its face formed what appeared to be a smile. Visitors, it said in a strange, melodic language that none of them understood. Then it touched its throat and adjusted something around its neck, a small device they hadn't noticed before. When it spoke again, the words were in heavily accented but understandable English. Unexpected visitors. How interesting. The alien climbed carefully out of the pod, standing slightly shorter than the average human. I am called Morrow. I am a keeper. Jack stepped forward. I'm Captain Jack Barnes of Earth. We found your ship near our planet. Morrow's eyes widened. Earth? We've reached Earth? A look of joy crossed his face, followed quickly by concern. How long have I been asleep? Has anyone else found us? Lisa answered. We detected your ship 3 days ago. And yes, others have found you. They call themselves collectors. They've landed on our planet and are demanding we give them this world ship. The effect of her words was immediate. Morrow stumbled backward, his 4 hands grasping the edge of his pod for support. No, he whispered. Not the collectors. Not after all this time. He looked up, his eyes now filled with fear. You must not give them this ship, no matter what they promise or threaten. Back on Earth, the collectors had established bases outside major cities. Their ships, sleek, silver crafts that hovered silently, had landed in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, London, and other capitals. At the White House, President James Miller met privately with Commander Vex. Our scientists tell me the world ship contains thousands of hibernating aliens, Miller said. Aliens that are not collectors. Vex's face remained expressionless. Yes, they are called keepers. They are a primitive species we once protected. The ship was stealing them away, so we pursued it. Pursued it for how long? Miller asked. That is not your concern, Vex replied coldly. What matters is that the world ship and its occupants belong to us. We have the right to retrieve them. Miller leaned forward. Then why not tell us that from the beginning? Why hide their existence? We did not wish to complicate matters. Vex stood, towering over the president. We have been patient, but our patience has limits. We will allow your people 1 more day to coordinate the handover of the world ship. After that, we will take action. As Vex left, Miller immediately called an emergency meeting. Reports were coming in from the Pathfinder with very different information about the relationship between the collectors and the being called Morrow. Aboard the world ship, Morrow led the human crew through vast chambers, explaining as they walked. This is one of the last world ships, he said sadly. Once there were hundreds. The collectors hunted most of them down. Why? Asked Jack. What do they want? Morrow stopped beside a large window looking out into space, the stars beyond twinkling against the darkness. Long ago, the collectors were created by the keepers as helpers. They were designed to be stronger, to work in harsh environments where we could not. For centuries, we lived together peacefully. His 4 hands made a complex gesture of sorrow. Then they changed. They began to see themselves not as helpers but as slaves. They rebelled, using the strength we gave them against us. The war was terrible. Billions died. Lisa gasped. So they're not coming to protect you? No, Morrow said quietly. They're coming to finish what they started centuries ago, our extinction. Why did your ship come to Earth specifically? Jack asked. Was it random? Morrow turned to look at them, his eyes studying their faces with new interest. No, Captain. Earth was always our destination. He touched a panel on the wall and a star map appeared showing a direct path from a distant galaxy to Earth. You see, Earth is special to us. Very special. He reached out, touching Jack's hand gently with one of his own. There is something you should know about your species and mine. Something that will explain why the collectors are really here. Before he could continue, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lisa rushed to a console. Captain, multiple ships detected leaving Earth's orbit. They're heading this way. Jack looked at Morrow, whose face had turned ashen. The collectors are coming for the world ship, the alien whispered, and they will destroy anyone who stands in their way. We need to hide, Morrow said, his forearms moving in frantic gestures. The collectors must not capture this world ship. Jack looked at the alien, then at his crew. We're not running. My people are on Earth and they need to know what's really happening. He turned to Lisa. How long until those ships reach us? 3 hours at their current speed, she replied, studying the display. Then we have 3 hours to learn everything we can. Jack faced Morrow again. You were about to tell us why Earth is special to your people and why the collectors are really here. Morrow hesitated, then nodded. Follow me to the Hall of Records. What I must show you cannot simply be told. The group hurried through the vast corridors of the world ship. As they walked, Ben asked, How many of your people are in hibernation here? Approximately 10,000, Morrow replied. All that remains of our once great civilization. And the collectors? How many of them exist? Asked Alex, her military mind assessing the threat. Billions, Morrow said simply. They have taken our worlds and built an empire on the ruins of ours. They entered a large circular room with a domed ceiling. In the center stood a pedestal with a glowing orb. Morrow placed all 4 of his hands on it and the room darkened. Suddenly stars appeared all around them as if they were floating in space. This is the history of my people, Morrow said as images began to form in the starry display. The humans watched as the story unfolded around them. They saw beautiful cities filled with keepers, a peaceful civilization that had mastered space travel and created amazing technology. Then came the creation of the collectors, designed to help the keepers explore harsh worlds and perform difficult labor. We made them stronger, faster, and more durable than ourselves, Morrow explained as the images shifted. But we did not foresee the consequences. The scene changed to show collectors beginning to question their role, then organizing, and finally, rebelling. The images of the war that followed were terrible. Planets burning, cities in ruins, billions dying on both sides. The collectors had one advantage, Morrow continued. They could reproduce quickly while we keepers have very low birth rates. They soon outnumbered us. The display showed the last keepers building massive world ships to escape. We launched 12 world ships in different directions, Morrow said sadly. As far as I know, this may be the last one still intact. The collectors hunted down the others over the centuries. But why come to Earth specifically? Jack asked again. Morrow waved his hands and the display changed to show a small blue planet, Earth, but millions of years in the past. Long before humans evolved, before even your dinosaurs, we visited Earth, Morrow explained. We found it beautiful, but uninhabited by intelligent life. We left behind a gift. The images showed keepers releasing something into Earth's primordial oceans. Genetic material? Ben gasped, understanding dawning on his face. Morrow nodded. Modified keeper DNA, designed to evolve slowly with your planet. We seeded many worlds this way, hoping to create a genetic legacy that might one day evolve into new civilizations friendly to our own. Lisa's eyes widened. Are you saying humans evolved from keeper DNA? Not exactly, Morrow replied. Your evolution was natural, but our genetic material influenced certain aspects of your development. The Capacity for complex thought, tool use, language. These developed more quickly because of our contribution. Jack stared at the images of ancient Earth. So we're related to you? Distant cousins, you might say, Morrow confirmed. Different enough to be unique, but similar enough that your DNA can interact with our technology. He gestured around them. That is why you were able to enter this ship without difficulty. It recognized you as family. Alex crossed her arms. And the collectors know this? Yes. They have always feared that one day, one of our seeded worlds would produce a species that might ally with any surviving keepers. Morrow's expression darkened. That is why they have come to Earth now, not just for this world ship, but to assess whether humans pose a threat to their dominance. We need to warn Earth, Jack said urgently. He activated his communication device to contact the Pathfinder, but only static came through. What's happening? Lisa checked her equipment. The collectors must be jamming our signals. There is another way, Morrow said. This world ship has communication systems powerful enough to penetrate their jamming technology. But to activate them fully, I need human DNA. Why human DNA? Ben asked. The world ship was programmed to recognize both keeper and human genetic patterns as authorized users, Morrow explained. A safety measure in case we were all still in hibernation when it reached Earth. Jack didn't hesitate. Take whatever you need. On Earth, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The collectors had moved their ships into threatening positions, above major cities. Their message was clear. Hand over the world ship or face the consequences. In the Pentagon Situation Room, military leaders gathered around satellite images of the alien vessels. We've lost contact with the Pathfinder, General Roberts reported grimly, and our long-range sensors show collector ships on an intercept course with the world ship. President Miller studied the reports. What are our options? Limited, Admiral, Jones replied. Their technology is far beyond ours. A direct confrontation would be catastrophic. Sir, a communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the world ship, but it's Captain Barnes. The large screen flickered to life, showing Jack, his crew, and Morrow. Mr. President, Jack said urgently, I need to report on what we've discovered. The collectors have not been honest about their intentions. As Jack explained everything they had learned, the room fell silent. When he finished, President Miller looked stunned. You're saying these collectors were created by the Keepers, rebelled, and now want to prevent us from allying with their former masters? Yes, sir, Jack confirmed. And there's more. The Keepers seeded Earth millions of years ago with genetic material that influenced human evolution. That's why they came here, and why the collectors followed. Captain, the President said after, A moment, what do you recommend? Don't give them the world ship, sir. It contains technology that could help us defend ourselves, and 10,000 hibernating Keepers who deserve our protection. Before the President could respond, alarms blared through the Pentagon. On screens worldwide, people watched in horror as the collectors launched their first attack, a precise strike against military bases and defense systems around the globe. They're not waiting for an answer, General Roberts shouted over the chaos. On the world ship, Jack and his team felt a massive shudder run through the vessel. They're here, Morrow said, his voice filled with dread. The collectors have begun their assault. Lisa rushed to a console. Multiple ships are attempting to dock with the world ship. Can we activate the defenses? Jack asked Morrow. Partially, the alien replied. I've initiated basic systems using your DNA, but the full defensive capabilities require more time to activate. Jack turned to his team. Alex, take your security officers and defend the main entry points. Ben, help Morrow wake more of his people. We'll need their knowledge. Lisa, keep working on those defenses. As the crew hurried to their tasks, Jack looked out at the stars, knowing that both the world ship and Earth were now under attack. The future of two species, human and keeper, hung in the balance. They think they've won already, he said quietly. Let's prove them wrong. The first collector soldiers breached the world ship's outer hull with cutting tools that sliced through the ancient metal like butter. They moved with military precision, their silver skin reflecting the emergency lights that had activated throughout the ship. Alex and her security team had set up defensive positions near the main entry point. They crouched behind makeshift barriers, weapons ready. "Remember," Alex told her team, "aim for the center mass. We don't know their weak points yet." The doors at the end of the corridor slid open. 3 collectors stepped through wearing sleek armor and carrying weapons unlike anything the humans had seen before. Alex didn't hesitate. She fired first. Her shot struck the lead collector in the chest. The alien staggered but didn't fall. Instead, it raised its weapon and fired back, a pulse of energy that melted part of Alex's barrier. "Their armor absorbs energy," she shouted. "Switch to physical ammunition." The firefight that followed was brief, but intense. The humans managed to force the collectors to retreat temporarily, but it was clear they would return with reinforcements. Alex activated her comm. "Captain, we've repelled the first wave, but there will be more. Their weapons and armor are advanced." "Fall back to the central chamber," Jack ordered. "We need to consolidate our position." On Earth, humanity's military forces were fighting a losing battle. Collector ships targeted defense installations with surgical precision, disabling radar systems, missile silos, and airfields around the globe. Strangely, the aliens seemed to avoid civilian targets and historical sites. They destroyed only military technology, leading some analysts to a startling conclusion. In the White House Situation Room, Dr. Jane Porter, a leading anthropologist who had been called in to analyze the collectors' behavior, shared her theory. "They're being selective," she explained to President Miller. "They're dismantling our military capability but leaving our cultural centers untouched. This suggests they're not here just to support their space mission." "What are you saying, Doctor?" the President asked. "I think they're planning to stay," Porter replied grimly. "They're neutralizing threats but preserving Earth itself. The question is, for what purpose?" The President's phone rang. It was a direct line from the science team analyzing collector technology. "Sir," the lead scientist reported, "we've discovered something unusual. The collectors are avoiding our oldest archaeological sites. It's as if they're afraid of them." "Which sites specifically?" Porter asked, her mind racing. "The pyramids, Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, sites in Peru and China. Basically, any mysterious ancient structure older than 10,000 years. Porter's eyes widened. Those could be locations where the Keepers left technology on Earth during their visits millions of years ago. "Are you suggesting these ancient monuments might contain alien technology?" the President asked incredulously. "It's possible," Porter nodded. "And if the collectors are avoiding them, it might mean they can't approach them for some reason. That could be a tactical advantage." Back on the world ship, Jack, Morrow, and the rest of the crew had gathered in the central command chamber. Ben had successfully awakened 5 more Keepers, who were now helping Lisa access the ship's systems. "The defensive shields are at 30% capacity," Lisa reported. "But we're making progress. With the help of the Keepers, we might get them fully operational before the collectors break through." Morrow approached Jack with a tablet-like device. "Captain, I've found something important in the archives. The world ship was not just carrying my people to safety. It was also carrying our most advanced technology for safekeeping." "What kind of technology?" Jack asked. "Biological engineering," Morrow explained. "The very science that allowed us to create the collectors in the first place. If they obtain it, they could enhance their soldiers even further, making them virtually unstoppable warriors." "That explains their determination," Jack said. "But why attack Earth? Why not just take the world ship and leave?" One of the newly awakened Keepers, an older female named Lyra, joined the conversation. "Because of what we left on your planet long ago. The collectors know that Keeper technology might still exist on Earth, dormant, but intact." "What exactly did you leave behind?" Jack asked. "Defensive systems," Lyra replied. "Hidden in certain locations, disguised as natural formations or later built upon by your ancestors who discovered them but didn't understand their purpose." "The ancient sites," Lisa exclaimed. "The ones humans have wondered about for centuries?" Lyra nodded. Yes, they were placed as a precaution in case the engineered life on Earth ever evolved into intelligence and needed protection. A loud explosion rocked the ship, throwing everyone off balance. "They're trying to breach the hibernation chamber," Alex shouted as she rushed in. "They want to eliminate the sleeping keepers." Jack made a quick decision. "Lisa, keep working on the defenses. Alex, take Ben and protect the hibernation chamber. I need to get this information to Earth immediately." Dr. Reed had made a breakthrough. Using a combination of human DNA and keeper technology, she had managed to activate more of the world ship's systems. As she worked, she noticed something strange in the ship's genetic database. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the analysis again. The results remained the same. She called Jack over immediately. "Captain, I've analyzed our DNA against the keeper genetic records," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The match is far closer than Morrow suggested. We're not just influenced by their genetic seeding. Humans are direct descendants of the keepers, modified to survive Earth's conditions." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we're not just distant cousins. We're the next evolution of keepers adapted for Earth. That's why the world ship was coming here. It wasn't just seeking allies. It was coming home to its children." Jack stared at the genetic comparisons on the screen. "Does this mean we can fully activate the world ship's systems?" "Yes," Lisa confirmed. "With the right genetic key, a combination of human DNA patterns, we can access everything. The ship recognizes us as authorized users because, in a very real sense, we're family." As this revelation sank in, the ship's communication system suddenly activated. President Miller appeared on the main screen. "Captain Barnes, we've discovered something. The collectors are avoiding our ancient monuments. Dr. Porter believes they might contain alien technology." "She's right, sir," Jack replied. "We've just learned that those sites contain defensive systems left by the Keepers millions of years ago, and there's more. Humans aren't just influenced by Keeper genetics. According to Dr. Reed's analysis, we're their direct descendants, evolved for Earth conditions." The president looked stunned. "Can these defensive systems be activated?" "If the Keeper's information is correct, yes, but we'd need the right activation codes, which might be stored here on the world ship." Morrow stepped forward. "The codes are indeed here, in our central database. I can transmit them to Earth, but only if we can secure our position long enough." Another explosion shook the ship violently. "Sir," Jack said urgently, "we're under heavy attack. The collectors know what we've discovered, and they're determined to stop us. If we can activate those ancient defenses on Earth, we might have a chance. But we need time." "Hold your position, Captain," the president replied firmly. "Earth's military forces are regrouping. We're sending everything we have to defend that world ship." As the communication ended, Jack turned to his crew. "You heard the president. We need to hold out long enough to find those activation codes. The fate of both our species depends on it." Outside the world ship, the darkness of space was lit up by the approaching engines of collector warships, and behind them, the smaller, but determined vessels of humanity's combined space forces, coming to make their stand. The world ship trembled as another explosion rocked its ancient hull. Jack steadied himself against a console and looked at the faces of his crew, human and keeper alike. They were tired but determined. "The main database is through that corridor," Morrow said, pointing with one of his forearms. "But the collectors have cut off our access." Lisa's fingers flew across the alien controls. "I've managed to establish a secure connection with Earth. We can transmit the activation codes as soon as we find them." "We need a diversion," Jack decided. "Alex, can your team draw the collectors away from the database section?" Alex nodded grimly. "We'll give you 10 minutes. That's the best we can do." Jack turned to Morrow and Lisa. "Then we have 10 minutes to find those codes and save both our worlds." As Alex led her team down one corridor, Jack, Lisa, and Morrow took another route, using the service tunnels that ran throughout the massive ship. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through the metal halls. On Earth, the situation was reaching a critical point. Commander Vex had called for reinforcements, and dozens more collector ships had appeared in orbit. They continued their systematic destruction of Earth's military capabilities while avoiding civilian centers. In the ancient ruins of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Dr. Porter led a team of scientists and soldiers. They had been sent there based on the theory that the site contained hidden keeper technology. According to the partial data from the world ship, there should be a control panel somewhere in these stones, Porter said, examining the massive T-shaped pillars that were over 11,000 years old. A young soldier pointed to strange markings on one of the pillars. "Doctor, these symbols look similar to the ones in the photos from the world ship." Porter rushed over. "You're right." She carefully placed her hand on the markings. Nothing happened. "The activation is genetic," she remembered. "We need the right DNA sequence and the activation codes from the world ship." Her radio crackled. "This is Washington. Similar sites are being examined worldwide. We're standing by for the codes. How much time do we have?" Porter looked up at the sky, where collector ships were visible even in daylight. "Not much. Minutes, maybe." In the world ship's central database, Jack watched as Morrow and Lisa worked frantically to locate the activation codes. "The system recognizes your DNA," Morrow told Jack, "but we need a specific command sequence to access the highest security protocols." Lisa's eyes lit up. "What about combining our DNA? If humans are evolved keepers, maybe a genetic key from both current species would work." Morrow considered this. "It's possible." The ship was programmed to recognize both patterns. They placed their hands on the scanner together, human and keeper. The screen before them flashed, then displayed a complex series of symbols. "The activation codes," Morrow breathed, "and something more." The entire ship suddenly hummed with new energy. Lights that had been dormant for centuries began to glow throughout the corridors. "What's happening?" Jack asked. "The world ship is fully awakening," Morrow explained, his voice filled with awe. "It recognizes the combined genetic signature as a completion of its mission. Earth and Keeper, parent and child, reunited after millions of years." Through the viewing port, they could see the exterior of the ship beginning to transform. Massive panels shifted, revealing defensive arrays and communication systems that had been hidden beneath the outer hull. Lisa quickly connected to Earth's communication network. "I'm transmitting the activation codes now." Around the world, at sites that had puzzled archaeologists for generations, something extraordinary began to happen. At Göbekli Tepe, the stone pillars started to glow with an inner light. In Egypt, the pyramid's surfaces rippled as if they were liquid. At Stonehenge, the ancient stones hummed with energy. Dr. Porter watched in amazement as the ground beneath her feet shifted, revealing a control panel made of a material unlike anything on Earth. As the activation codes streamed in from the world ship, the panel came to life. "It's working," she reported excitedly. "The Keeper technology is responding." Similar reports came in from sites around the globe. The myths of ancient advanced civilizations had been based on truth. The Keepers had left their technology, disguised and dormant, waiting for their children to reclaim it. Commander Vex received the reports with growing alarm. "Impossible," he hissed, watching as Earth's ancient monuments transformed into Keeper defense systems. After all this time, he turned to his officers on the command ship. "Concentrate all firepower on the world ship. We must destroy it before they complete the activation sequence." The collector fleet redirected its attacks, all weapons targeting the world ship. But they were too late. The ship's newly revealed defensive systems were already active, creating a shield that absorbed their attacks. Jack felt the world ship shudder as it repelled the collector assault. "The shields are holding," he reported. "But we need to do more than just defend. We need to drive them back." Morrow's hands moved across the controls. "With the ship fully activated, we can do more than that. We can awaken all the sleeping keepers. And more importantly, we can activate the defensive network on Earth." On the main screen, they watched as ancient structures around Earth transformed, revealing their true nature as parts of a planetary defense system. Energy fields spread outward, from these points connecting and strengthening each other. "It's beautiful," Lisa whispered as the network took shape. The collectors found their weapons suddenly ineffective against both Earth and the world ship. Their communications began to fail as the Keeper defense network disrupted their signals. In the White House Situation Room, President Miller received reports from military commands worldwide. "The alien technology is working," a general reported with barely contained excitement. "The collectors are losing their advantage." Earth's military forces, now coordinated with the ancient defense systems, launched a counterattack. Fighter jets equipped with hastily adapted Keeper technology engaged the collector ships in Earth's atmosphere. Commander Vex, seeing the tide turning, made one final, desperate attempt. He led his elite forces in a direct assault on the world ship, determined to capture or destroy it. His ship docked forcefully with the ancient vessel, and he led his soldiers toward the central chamber. Jack, Lisa, and Morrow were preparing to join the remaining Keepers when the doors to the command center burst open. Commander Vex stood there, his silver skin now marked with battle damage, his eyes cold with hatred. "You have ruined everything," he snarled, weapon raised. "Centuries of work undone because of you." "It's over, Vex," Jack said calmly. "Earth is protected now. The Keepers are awakening. There's nowhere left for you to go. Then I will have the satisfaction of eliminating the ones who caused our downfall," Vex replied, aiming his weapon at Morrow. Before he could fire, the ship itself seemed to respond. Panels in the walls opened, and beams of energy surrounded Vex and his soldiers, freezing them in place. "The world ship has its own defenses," Morrow explained. "It was designed to protect its occupants." Vex struggled against the energy field. "This isn't the end," he warned. "There are more collectors. We will return with a greater force." "And we'll be waiting," Jack promised. "Humanity and Keepers, together." In the days that followed, the remaining collector forces retreated from Earth's solar system. The hibernating Keepers were gradually awakened, marveling at the world their genetic children had built. The world ship settled into orbit around Earth, a bridge between humanity's past and future. Scientists from both species began working together, combining their knowledge and technology. In a special ceremony at the United Nations, Morrow and the Keeper elders officially recognized humanity as their descendants and allies. "Long ago, we left our genetic legacy on this beautiful planet," Morrow told the assembled world leaders. "We hoped that one day life would evolve that carried our essence. What we did not expect was that you would surpass us in many ways." Jack, standing beside President Miller, felt a sense of pride as he watched humans and Keepers shaking hands. In some cases, multiple hands. "What happens now?" President Miller asked quietly. "We prepare," Jack replied. Vex was right about one thing. The collectors will return eventually, but next time we'll face them together. As the ceremony concluded, Jack gazed up at the night sky where the world ship was visible as a new, artificial moon. It was no longer just a vessel carrying the past, but a symbol of humanity's new place in the universe. Earth was no longer alone. And for the first time in centuries, neither were the Keepers. Two branches of the same family tree, reunited at last, ready to face whatever came next among the stars.